Today, we're going to talk about living in ease. Hello, everyone, and welcome to My Design Life, where we learn and test the latest science, tips, tools, and strategies for you to create your best life and business every day. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at Tanyamfk and on the My Design Life Show podcast. And I'm your host, Tanya Marie Figueres Preisinger, more easily known as Tanya MFK. And you are here to learn how to create your best life, and also how to live it now. And I'm thankful that you showed up. Now, my guest today is a sought-after speaker lecturing at NYU and Harvard on topics such as entrepreneurship, health, and well-being. She's a global yoga, movement, and wellness expert, author, and founder of Stråla Yoga. She was named Yoga Rebel by the New York Times for bringing a revolutionary approach for being, moving, and healing. Her work has been used in case studies at Harvard and has inspired millions around the world with a relatable perspective to yoga, meditation, exercise, awareness, nutrition, and everyday well-being. Through her books, including her newest, Clean Mind, Clean Body, and her classes, she offers an important reset button to transform daily routines and habits so we can ease into wellness and truly be ourselves and our best selves. Here today to teach us how to bring more ease into our challenges and our lives, please welcome Tara Stiles.
Welcome to My Designed Life.
Hello, Tara.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk about ease. It always helps me feel better as well. So thank you so much for doing this.
It's a great thing to ease into, right? It's great to be in there. Well, in full transparency, as I mentioned a little bit before, I had this grand idea of how we would start, and we dive into Stråla Yoga and why they're calling you a rebel and all these amazing things that I still absolutely want to dive into. But I wanted to take a step back from all of that and kind of remind the audience and bring us to the point of why are we doing all these things? All this great stuff that we've got, all these great things that we can learn in the book. What is the point? What are we really trying to get to that helps us find this place of well-being and our best selves?
Well, first of all, thank you for changing your plan, because it's refreshing to actually talk about that. And it's also a challenge sometimes to share that sort of goal meaning, especially with teaching yoga and doing these things. It's so distracting to do the things to get to the goal sometimes, especially when you're trying to do it and share it and all of these things. So, for me, the goal has always been to feel better and to learn and grow and use my energy for good. I mean, I think so many little kids have this feeling at some point, you have this little aha moment of, I'm a person and I have all of this energy and I'm so special and everyone else is special. And let me use my life to kind of figure out those things and navigate in this way, and then of course we all forget and we try to, do good at school or whatever the kind of path is. But I really came back to that feeling through a yoga class in my dance conservatory. And it wasn't about yoga for me. So thank you for kind of shifting this, because yoga for me, honestly, between us is an impediment really to talking about this stuff, because we have to do something to get to it. We need to drink the water and eat the vegetables and do the yoga, but really it's how we're doing it to get to that place of feeling better. And for me, my first thought was when I took this yoga class was, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This connects me back to those feelings. And my second thought was, why don't all my friends do this? Why isn't this everywhere? And then when I went out in the world and started to learn, I realized, oh, it's because it's convoluted and it's kind of wrapped up in not ease, and it's wrapped up in rigidity and all of these, same problems with everything else in the world, why we can't get to this place. So I feel like I got stuck with just wanting to help myself feel better and wanting to make it easier to feel better, because we don't really, talk about this stuff in our normal life.
Yeah. Yes. Well, and I heard you say before, someone asked you, I think they said, well, what was it about yoga? What was it? And you said simply, I feel better. I feel better. And it doesn't matter. And that can be a physical feeling, an emotional feeling, a mind clearing feeling, but you feel better. And when we bring in, or when we experience, let's say experience, because I don't know that we consciously bring it in, but when we experience the rigidity, when we start to focus on, am I in the right position? Can I go as far as that person? Am I supposed to be standing on my head right now? How are those things happening? Then we lose that end result. right? It
Mm-hmm.
becomes, the process becomes more important than the result,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I know for myself, as that kind of, for lack of a better term, that overachiever type A, if you will, it was easy for me when I learned things like morning routines and how amazing those were. And then it started to become a checklist. And that checklist became, what can I do? I got this list, and it became finishing the list and not about how I felt when I was done with the list, right? It was like, I finished the list. It was like, I'm stressed, but I did the list. And I think is that kind of similar to what I'm hearing there, is that you found like, this is so beautiful. I feel so good. Why are so many people doing this? And the truth was, there were a lot of people doing it. It just it became a thing, right? It became like the rigidity. Does that sound right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, and I knew right then and there, it's sort of like, I mean, we were talking about our husbands earlier, helping us out and, just being partners in all the ways. It was kind of the same feeling when I met my husband. I saw him and I said, oh, that's the guy I'm going to marry, And it was a great relief, but it was also this, okay, this is where we're going. And I had that same feeling when I took this yoga class. I wanted to dance professionally. I had other ideas, and I thought, oh, there's something here, maybe that's that entrepreneurial little, light up that goes and makes us all feel crazy. But, I need to do this because I don't see it being done in a way that actually, I'm sure there's great teachers here and there, not to be like, all yoga is rigid and all of these things. But when you see something that you feel like no one else sees, you kind of have to do something about it. And I think so many people have that experience in life. It's sort of the definition of why anybody does anything, because they didn't see anybody else doing it in the same way, and you felt like it could help you and help other people. So for me, that was such a big calling to help people feel better. And I remember the more I learned about yoga, I was always kind of softening it a little bit and making it more about the movement instead about the pose, and developing this thing now that people call rebellious and all of that stuff. But really the bottom line is, it has to work. Otherwise, you're trying to do this yoga pose. And, I can go around in my hometown or New York or any city and ask somebody, do you want to do yoga? And if they already do yoga, then they'll say, oh yeah, of course, blah, blah, blah. And if they don't, they'll run away from you still. But if you ask somebody, do you want to feel better?
Yes.
So I always start with that. If, I see somebody a little bit, stressed or whatever, it has to be about something that we really truly want. And nobody is born saying, I want to put my foot behind my head. That's not a goal. Somehow we get tricked into that, just like we get tricked into, I love what you do here. We get tricked into meeting all of these kind of superficial goals in our life. And then, at the end of the day, is that checklist really what you're after? Or is it some deeper, it's not even this heavy, deeper thing. It's just, well, I want to feel better. I want to have energy. I want to connect, whatever those sort of baseline realities are when we just get quiet with ourselves. So for me, I got, yoga is such a great fit because there's so much to do in it. And, I really believe you need to do something in order to feel better. You can't just decide, I'm going to feel better.
Right.
You need some sort of form, whether it's, all of the things, drinking the water, eating the vegetables, exercise, yoga, but it needs to be something that actually works for you. And, I love sharing yoga like that. And, for whatever reason, at this point in history, it just, when I started, that was very different. And people were, mad at me saying, oh, it needs to be about the pose and you can't play music. I said, well, music helps people feel better. So can I play a little bit, nothing, ridiculous, but a little bit of, Eddie Vedder, a little bit of classic rock, I'm quiet, not to overwhelm the experience, but just to loosen people up a little bit. And, now that's normal, but 10 years ago, people would walk in and some people would love it. And some people would say, what are you doing? You can't do that. And I said, well, why? Why can't you do something that helps? So maybe that's part of that question that you're trying to, pull out of folks as well. And I think that's such a huge part of the healing process too, is, well, why are you resisting feeling better in the first place?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I love what you said, like, because it becomes that result. It becomes that feeling better. It's yoga's not the objective, at least for your world. Yoga's the tool, not the objective. And I love that you brought up dance, because I do know you have a background in dance, you have a history in dance. It was ballet, I believe, correct? right?
Yeah, all the contemporary stuff like
Yeah.
Paul Taylor and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So very disciplined,
Mhm.
in somewhat, it almost, it's such a natural progression because dance is such an open, beautiful space to be where we feel our body, we feel our movement. And in that same space, you can absolutely be within rigidity. We
Mhm.
have competitions, we have things in there
Mhm.
that have hardline rules of what they
Mhm.
need to be. And in that same space, you can say, well, what is my objective? If it is to become, the winner of the competition, then I absolutely will benefit from following those rules and sticking within
Mhm.
that rigidity. If I just want to feel good, then dancing in your kitchen as wild and
Mm.
ridiculous as possible is going to get to your objective, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. And I think, I grew up in that kind of like, small town dance competition world. And I remember going to all of the cities for those competitions and just begging my parents, please drop me off with these people. They know how to get to these different places with your body. And what I saw was, when I wasn't satisfied in myself or when I had a teacher that was more rigid, it wasn't even, they could get pretty far, but they couldn't get to the top. And when I would see a teacher that was incredibly talented and doing all of these things, they were moving so well, and the movements wouldn't actually work if they were rigid. So, it does exist in that world. And then when I moved on to conservatory, the experience, if you have rigidity, it comes from this deep insecurity. And, a lot of people, not just dancers, but go through that. I need to be perfect in this way. But for the dance to actually work, it can't be there. And I think that's so, mind blowing as well, because people see that in, whether it's yoga or career perfectionism or, how you are in your family or whatever it is. It's like, if it's not rigid, I'm going to fall apart,
Right.
if it's not perfect, then I'm going to lose it. And, I'm so thankful that I had those teachers that said, no, you can work really hard, but if you tense up, your body's working against yourself and you can't actually do the 32 fouettes. And I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yes. No,
You
I
just have to
love
do
that you
it.
brought that over into all the other spaces because it is true. It's this idea, the idea of perfectionism. It's got to look a certain way. It's got to be a certain way. Robs a lot
Mm,
of the experience from us. It actually robs a lot of the very thing that we're after to enjoy it. I mean, I even think about party planning and event planning.
mm,
And I know for myself in my younger days, putting on these big events and making sure everything was perfect and it looked perfect and the tables were gorgeous and it was the
mm.
right food and everything. And then by the time the event was over, I couldn't tell you who I spoke to or what. I was constantly cleaning and doing and all those things. And I missed out on so much of the great conversation or the fun
Mm.
moments because I was making sure that it was perfect.
Yeah.
It
Oh my
was
gosh.
so perfect, right? And I think you just see that cross over in all the things that we've been discussing, whether it's in the yoga and the dance and things that, and to circle this back around to what we started with, ease
Hmm.
is really, right, the thing that brings us to our best place.
Hmm.
And I know as entrepreneurs, it's a huge struggle because especially now we're starting to see a shift, but we're really at the beginning, but we're starting to see a shift from this um, hustle, grind, repeat kind of mentality.
Hmm.
But for a long time, the big rise in entrepreneurship when the internet got involved in it and people were really talking about it was like, it's going to be hard. You got to work hard. And we've accepted that. And I have coached so many clients where they don't, how do I say this? They almost get frustrated or confused when they're like, but shouldn't it be harder than this? Shouldn't I be doing
Mm,
more? And I'm like,
mm,
no, we're actually going to take half that stuff off and you're
mm,
going to focus on just that thing, that one thing. And they start to see progress, but they're like, but it feels something must be wrong
mm.
because this feels okay. This feels
Yeah.
good.
Oh, it's so true. There's years ago when I first moved to New York, I was kind of leading one-on-one people in their homes with yoga. I don't know how that happened, but you do one thing and it just starts to snowball into other things. But it was really great learning experience because it was a lot of these. I was 21 years old and I was teaching yoga to like these CEOs and finance folks. And, I thought it was just really funny how they did this kind of rigidity in their life, but obviously they were successful financially. And you know, a lot of them trying to buy their way into happiness too. So a lot of the things that I kind of just observed was, well, how are you in your body and what's going on, without saying anything? Because, you know, I'm just some punk kid. I can't give life advice to some 45-year-old, you know, multi-millionaire self-made individual. But I remember there was this one guy, and you know, I had him in a plank pose, and he said, well, I'm strong, I work out, I can do this longer than you. He started to get competitive with me. And I said, okay, fine. I would normally do this in my head, but I got down on the ground. I said, let's see who can hold it longer. Because I thought maybe there's something here that will happen that'll be good. And, you know, I can stay in a plank pose, and I'm just, you know, same build as I was always, you know, since I was a little kid. But I've learned through all of the things that I've explored how to manage myself and my body, and how to not tense up in a way. So I could be in the hard thing without using extra energy. And he could be in the hard thing with using 20 times the energy that he needed just to show himself that he was working hard. So I thought, okay, this huge muscle gym guy, I'm going to, you know, whoop his butt. So we were sitting there in this plank pose, and 30 seconds goes by. He starts to sweat. He's looking over, nothing with me, you know, 45 seconds. So a couple of minutes go by, and he just hits the floor, and I'm fine, you know? And, you know, I think at that point I said, you know, this is about doing a lot, but you can do whatever you want to do, but you don't need to do extra energy along the way. You're fighting yourself, and nothing in nature that's successful does that. A tree grows. It doesn't say, I'm growing. You know, and we had a good laugh, and he said, you know, maybe you're right. And we still keep in touch about all this. And, you know, for me, it was a breaking point. We would do the yoga in his office, and then he would leave and then yell at all of his employees. And I remember at one point I said, you know, you got to be a little bit nicer to people. So I think after we did the plank pose in this way, he started thinking about it a little bit differently. And that made me feel like, okay, maybe there's something here that, you know, so many people in the world are going through, that no pain, no gain, and they're getting a lot done, but they're not happy, and they're actually not doing as much as they could.
Yeah.
You can do more. Think of all of how smart you are and how much you could do.
Yeah. Well, and taking back to the plank situation, all the energy that he put out left him depleted. Yes. Whereas you probably had some reserves, and it wasn't about, oh, she's way more badass than him. I mean, to a degree you were, but it was about how you approach the same situation and use what you had. And we're going to definitely transition to talking about the Stråla Yoga and what you've created, because what this also reminds me of is, you know, having trained at the Shaolin Temple in China, being amongst monks and Kung Fu masters. My Shifu was a 34th generation warrior monk. One of the things that usually throws people off is not everyone, very few, if any, look like Bruce Lee. You know, this cut, you know, muscles and these things, and very, very unassuming. Very unassuming. So when we talk about like your body frame and things that you have now, you're like, I'm in the same build. And the strength is really from where it comes from within. And it comes from, you know, this, I mean, it's just surprising, these tiny movements that they would come up with and just throw you across the field. I mean, and you know, my Shiva didn't hold back, but he would just take a tiny little push. And I mean, I'd be down so fast. And it seemingly came out of nowhere. And what we all were continually being pressed to learn was to stop expelling energy. So you start to get ready, like, I'm going to make this big punch, and you're like holding up and you're tensing up. And that was the very thing. He's like, stop it. Be like a noodle. That was what he would say. We had to be like a noodle. Cool. And we had to loosen like a noodle. And you're thinking, noodles aren't strong. Noodles aren't going to pack a powerful punch. But it was as soon as that you went from noodle to strength, that's when all of your power came at once, as opposed to holding it and expelling it and using it. And we're doing that so much when we're hustling hard. We're doing the emails intensely, and then we're doing this intently, and then we're intensely, and we're going just so hard in every moment that when the time comes to use that power, we are depleted. We don't work because we're not living at ease. And so I think, especially for entrepreneurs, it's hard for us to see, like, how does going soft, how does that help us? And I believe you actually have a statement on your website somewhere about like something about being soft.
Yeah, so many, but because I'm always trying to figure out, because I would say these things and it gets met with resistance every single time, so I'm
Yeah.
always trying to rephrase it a little bit, but
The strongest version of you is soft. I
yes,
believe that's what it was. Yeah.
that's the current one, just giving people something to think about for a little bit, and then email me, what are you talking about?
Right. What does that mean? Well, and I love that. I love that, as we're talking about ease, as we're talking about and let's think about this for a second. We're talking about the power of ease.
Yes.
Talking about the power of ease. And so the strongest version of yourself is soft because we're using the energy when it's necessary. And then we're back to ease. We're back to softness. So let's take that. I'm just excited. I'm like so excited about this idea because this is something I'm just constantly working with my clients, with our audience, with of embracing doing less. And again, it's so hard for us to see that. So many of us have equated our output with our value, our output, with in our effort with results, as opposed to, the actual results themselves. And so here we are, we've talked about this beauty of ease. We've talked about a little bit how you've come through this path and the philosophy and beliefs behind it. But let's come back to what you put together because of it. So Stråla Yoga, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, and it all feels the same from the beginning, like that big pull. I think many folks that create something or, end up doing something of their own idea, and then, kind of the snowball effect. But yeah, I saw, I don't know if I saw a problem, but I saw, okay, we all feel stressed. We all feel tense. We don't want to. Yoga is awesome, but sometimes yoga makes you feel more stressed and tense, at least a lot of my friends that would go and do it. So I started leading classes and like people like this guy. So, kind of like a laboratory. I wasn't trying to create a brand. There's no spreadsheet, there's no thing. I just was doing this as a kind of a hobby, and it kind of took over. So I wanted to show people how to do yoga in a way that felt like them. And I kept kind of repeating that, if it feels good, go for that. If it feels better, go for that. And some of the feedback from that was, well, if I want to do what feels good, I'm just going to sit on the couch, And then I'm thinking, okay, that's not exactly, how I want to talk about it. It's more of this, move efficiently, move well, and then look, you can do more, so through what I know about movement, showing people how to be in the process of any movement allows them to actually do more. So people that would come to our classes, had no idea that they were starting to get really good at yoga. And then their friends would come who go and do yoga for 10 years wherever. And they'd say, oh my gosh, you can do all of these things. And they're like, so what? It's not hard. And that's when I thought, oh, wow, something's happening here. And we even would play that song a lot, the Buffalo Springfield, something's happening here. So, and we're just having a lot of fun. And like anything that starts to help people, people bring friends and things grow. And a lot of yoga teacher friends of mine would come and just go back to their studios and start to do little things that they would kind of pick up that would inspire them to, like maybe it was just playing music and it would help a lot, or maybe it was not pushing people into the position. I like this kind of, I can support you, I can lean into you, which 10 years later, I figure out is a shiatsu person came and said, what you're doing is shiatsu. And I said, maybe I should learn how to do shiatsu because I'm just doing it without knowing anything about it. And, my husband, Mike, is, he grew up doing all of this Tai Chi and these competitions and things. So I think I saw that in him and how he moved his body around, and how I always felt about yoga was exactly how you talk about your experience doing in the center with the Tai Chi and using your energy, because, your breath moves your body, and with softness as a base, everything is possible. Your breath starts to move you. And, and then I pick up a book about Tai Chi and I'm like, yes, 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 yes. And then I talk to, a friend who teaches Ayurveda and I'm like, yes, 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 yes. So all of the ancient arts are saying these things, but of course we took all the ancient arts and made them, a little bit more stressed, a little bit more 5-minute fix here and there. And
we made them better, quote unquote.
We made them better by, selling them in packages. But, I think there's also a problem of the dogma. I mean, even with Tai Chi, my husband has all of this Tai Chi background, and And he would even say, well, you have this Tai Chi teacher, and then all of their students try to actually imitate the teacher instead of doing what the teacher is saying. So they would even dress like the teacher and point their foot the exact same way from the outside in instead of from the inside out. So I think it's, you know, what I'm really trying to do is not have people, you know, imitate me, or maybe not have anything to imitate, because I'm just trying to share, this is how to do it. And then people are like, oh, I'm doing it. Not like, you told me how to do this and you're amazing. It's sort of, you know, this idea of I'm guiding you in this way. And when you do that, you come up with all of these good ideas on your own. So, you know, for me, things that were happening that were really cool was people would come to the studio for a short period of time or a long period of time. And then they would come back and, you know, great things would start to happen in their lives that, you know, I'd never take credit for, you know, whether they, you know, got better, feel better, or they changed their job, or they changed their relationship, you know, and they say the only thing that changed was coming to this class. And I said, well, you know, you're moving yourself in a way now that you're taking care of yourself, you're feeling better, you're deciding that you deserve to feel better, and you're doing it here. And then you go out and of course you're going to do it out there. So, you know, sometimes I get to talk with people about that, which is really cool. You know, especially in workshops, we kind of all share our experiences of how it feels when you're moved by your breath, and it's addictive in a nice way. You know, it feels nice, so I want to keep feeling nice. So, you know, I knew we had something, and we just kept going with it. And, you know, if anything, slowed the brakes so it didn't become annoying and frustrating and exhausting and something else that it was never intended to be. So, you know, it's grown so much, but it's been nice to have this way of being within that, so I don't get lost in the kind of, you know, 10 entrepreneurial steps that you may think that you should be doing if you don't feel confident in yourself or whatever, you know, like check those boxes too, you know. So yeah, it's been really nice to do this, and to help people and kind of step back and see that, you know, it's out there in the world, and people are doing it, people are leading it, and it's in all the places. But, you know, I don't feel like that's beaten me up in any way, which I think I'm most happy about.
Well, and I think it's a testament to the exact thing that you're teaching. And I love to just kind of like pull that into a nutshell, guys. So if you follow this beauty of what she was talking about and the ease, Stråla Yoga is an official name of this is an official name. So whether, I don't know if you call it a method or we call it a type of practice or whatnot, but it is the name of the website and all of those things. And it really came about your own experience, I know, coming through dance and then discovering it and going, wow, this feels really good. And that's where it started. Like, this feels good. And as you continue to dive into it, you found something. There was that entrepreneurial spark, not that it was intentionally that way, but you're like, there's something here. And more times than not, entrepreneurs, what we do is, you know, we're usually our first client, right? We're usually our first customer. We're going like, there's something here I need. And then somewhere along the way, we realize, well, other people might actually benefit from this too. Or maybe our friends started asking, right? So you started to create this own version, again, maybe not intentionally, but your own version of practice that let go of some principles or some common believed necessities of what yoga had to have, or rigidness that was there, and really brought in this feel, you know, do what feels good. But like you said, some people might go, it's a couch. And you're like, okay, I need to refine that a bit. And so you continue to develop this and started to see like people are having, you know, real true breakthroughs and experiences here as they're learning this different process. And I would like to speak into that for myself. I'm extremely flexible, right? So I could walk into yoga and look like I've been doing it for a very long time. The legs can go wherever they want. It wasn't until years later when I finally stopped going to classes and started doing some yoga on my own that I actually paid attention to how my body felt. And I would start to realize, you know, my knees hyperextend. And so I can look really great in a triangle pose, but it's terrible for my body. I wouldn't even feel the stretch. Then I started doing something that in the mirror didn't look as elongated, but I finally felt the stretch for the first time. I finally felt this is what it's supposed to be. I finally started being able to breathe the way that it seemed like you should be able to breathe. Inhale, exhale on my movement, where before I was like, how are they even doing this? I can't. But it was because I stopped paying attention to yoga as the objective
Mm,
and about listening to my body, about really
mm,
just being there with myself. And I didn't know that that's what I was doing, but it finally clicked one day, like, well, this feels good. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't do this. But
mhm,
it's easy to come in and to look that way, to do that thing and see
mhm,
and not realize what we're missing out on. And so I interject that to say, ultimately, I think that's what you found was coming together with what people were reporting, what people were
mm,
saying. And then you continue to build upon that by bringing in elements of Tai Chi and
mhm,
Qigong and Ayurveda to
mhm,
create a very unique tool
mhm.
for people to create ease in their life.
Yeah, it was already there, but I wasn't aware that it was there, which is
Right.
just such a gift too. So the more that I paid attention to learning about all of the healing arts, and the more that I could do what I was already doing better, and and model it better, and put myself in a better body position better, and know more about the person before I went over to do anything to them. I say, oh, that person doesn't need my attention because they're used to getting all the attention all the time in their life, and they would be
Mm,
better off if I just ignored them in this class, and they will actually go out and find a better balance in their life. And this person gets no attention at all, and nobody ever says hi to them, and I'm going to go over and talk to them at the end of the class, and everybody else is going to become around this person. And that whole idea of creating relationship and community also exists in Tai Chi and Shiatsu and these things. And we forget about it, especially in our fast wellness culture. It's sort of
yeah.
like, go to the yoga studio and then go get your green juice and then go get your new yoga mat and show it on Instagram and what?
Do it all really
And have
fast
no
as
time.
well.
Yeah, and have no time for any of it to actually work on you. We're kind of throwing everything at ourselves without actually, deciding, does this feel good for me? Is this nourishing me in any way? Or is this interesting? Even if I don't know what feels good, am I feeling anything, So there's so much to explore, for myself, and things I don't even need to tell people that I'm reading about or learning about. I don't need to lecture somebody on shiatsu in the middle of a class, but I can lean on somebody. If I know somebody, and this isn't, I don't want to say any claims, but if I know somebody is trying to conceive, a woman's trying to conceive a baby, I can lean on their, their reproductive point in Shavasana, and no harm done.
Right.
It may help them. And often, not a claim at all, but often folks come back and say, I'm pregnant. And I'm like,
Yeah.
do you want to be pregnant?
Tara's getting
This will
people
not make you
pregnant, you
pregnant.
guys.
But it can help your body heal. And knowing those things about certain, points, again, it's nothing invasive, but you're leaning on somebody in a way where you're doing your best judgment and trying to help them balance themselves. So with you, so flexible, somebody might congratulate you for that, or say, oh, go a little bit further. Yay, look, she's doing the splits. But, so you figured out a healthy me needs more balance in that area. I don't need to go into my knee joint. I can lengthen up in my own way, and from my center, everything I learned at the temple, and whoa, here I am, and that's really cool. And I think there's so much to play with there as a leader. And then coming back to this feeling of, oh, I feel like I got stuck doing yoga, and now learning what I'm actually been doing the whole time. There's everything that I've always been interested is right there in front of me, and I get to play until my death, which is awesome. I can get better at this for forever and help people, and they don't even need to know that I did anything for them. And that's so beautiful. That's kind of, for me, the definition of healing. It's not, you did something for me and now I owe you, this trophy or something. But, we can't heal unless it's coming from within. So for me,
Yeah.
that's just, that's the why. And that's the, helping me feel better too. And I'm sure it adds to my well-being. I don't have all of the scientific studies, but I'm sure they're out there. You help somebody feel better, then, all your molecules must line up in a better way too.
Oh yeah, there's some good hormone releases. There's all kinds of great
Yeah.
stuff that happens with that. There is a lot of science there. And what I'd love to also kind of point out, just with the audience, for those of you listening, there's so many points in this story as entrepreneurs, for us to take stock and go, wow, right, it is about the end result. How I feel matters. And when I feel good, I actually do better work. I do more intentional work. It can be easy. paying attention to how I feel and actually like listening to that allows me to progress further.
Mhm.
And so, even in that yoga example that I used, it could look like I was doing really good. And entrepreneurs, we can look real busy. And maybe we actually are getting some of the results. We're getting lots of the Instagram followers or whatever the thing is, but we're not in tune with ourselves, with how we feel, to what's really pushing us further to what we need to. When I was doing that stretch, it wasn't actually pushing me further. It was kind of just stretching my tendons a little more. When I when
Mhm.
I did less, when I actually had the kink in my knee that didn't look
Mhm.
straight, I finally felt the stretch I needed. And
Mhm.
we have that space in our lives as well, in our entrepreneurial lives, in our personal lives. And the other thing that I want to point out that has not been said yet, as we look at this, as we look at what Tara's done in just following this and the trials and errors and figuring it out and adding as she went, she didn't step out and go, I have now identified this perfect method. And now that it's ready, I will step out to the world. That's not what happened, right, Tara?
No.
No. But I'd like to tell you right now, because I don't know that she'll be able to say this out as exciting as I am, but Stråla is now practiced in more than 100 countries, and thousands of guides are leading these Stråla practices daily around the globe. This has become a powerful business. It has created enormous impact. It is changing not only the lives of the people who have now become guides in this process, to this is now their own part of their how they live and survive and work in their lives, but the people that they're impacting. And so it all comes together. All of these pieces of listening to ourselves, paying attention, taking care of ourselves, can also be very much part of the entrepreneurial journey. I just wanted to point out that whole circle that has happened in this microcosm that is just Tara right now.
Oh, that's so nice. But I feel like that's so true when I never really thought about it in that way, to be honest, but when you have that, how you feel along the way is just as important as wherever you're going. I know for me, everything that, is read in my bio, which is, honestly so embarrassing to sit back and be like, am I cool? Am I not cool? Whatever. But to sit back and be like, oh, of course, I made it a priority to help instructors become more connected to themselves and do this thing that has really worked for me and had success for me, because that was important for me to be on my own and be independent. So that makes sense. And of course, it also makes sense that I teach this myself in a big way, because I also want to help these people. And of course, it makes sense that I do, these other 10 things that I do, because when you feel good, you actually have the energy to say, I'm interested in these 5 things and I'm going to go and do it. And if you don't have your access to your energy, maybe you do one thing because a business advisor said this will be really good in the market right now. And if I listen to any of that, it might be successful, but I would be miserable.
Yes.
I would be
Yes.
working, I'd be fired. I'd be one of those CEOs that's fired from the company for coming in and smashing the lamp on the ground, or, not being happy with where it's going, because it becomes something else besides your intention. And I'm sure, there's plenty of ways to be healthy in those kind of bigger relationships with advisors, but I do think it's important, for folks to know that when you do ask yourself, am I feeling good along the way, just know that you're going to be able to do all of the things, or at least have the chance to do all of the things even better than if you're holding on to that, I need to be rigid because that's how I feel in control, because you're not in control. We're not in control of that. So.
No, I tell
But
my
thanks for
clients that
reminding
their best business strategy is their self-growth strategy.
me.
Once they have that, the rest will fall into place. There's no magic method. We are the magic method. And then after that, the strategy will work. But when we start with the strategy first and it goes against anything, or even if it doesn't go against, if it's just not who we are, it like you said, it may work on the outside. We may be doing the stretch, guys, but we're not actually feeling the benefits of what's happening. And that absolutely matters. And I think that's why you're seeing this come together in the way, and your business come together in the way that it has, is because you haven't been naive to understanding maybe what things are best practices in business, but it was built on the foundation of, how do I feel? How does this make the most sense for what I want to create, what I want to provide? And when we can keep those aligned, when we can live in ease, when we can bring that ease in, we can see these things come together. It wasn't magic,
No.
But that, yeah. And there were definitely, I'm sure, hard times and those peaks and valleys. That's life.
Mhm.
But you were able to go through it, and you continue to go through it. We continued to get through. We had some tech issues before we got on today, guys. Like, we get through it, and it doesn't defeat us. It can delay us, but it doesn't defeat us.
Mm.
Right. And I
I
think
love
that's just the
that.
power of what you're bringing in here. And as we're talking about this thing in this conversation, you also have a book that just recently, I don't know that recently, but came out, which is focusing on the same thing. You tell us a little about your new book.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because, just thinking about this as well, getting to write books is such a part of me that I love, and thinking about, not to like go way back with you, but thinking about how that's been a part of my life since I can remember. And I've always loved to read. I've always loved to write. And, thinking about how when you connect with yourself, you're going to get to do those things in some way, shape, or form. So, for me, this book, Clean Mind, Clean Body, is about looking at what's happening right now and talking to sort of us all maybe we can reflect during the process of this kind of fast wellness culture. And, I remember in New York City, and this isn't to make fun of any one person, this is sort of all of us, I saw a woman and she had she obviously just came from a fitness class, and she had her bag, you could see her heels sticking out going to the office next, and, getting it done. And then she had her green juice, and she was literally perched over a garbage can, drinking the rest of her green juice out of the plastic bottle, and then threw it away and then ran across the street. And I'm thinking, whoa, this is really intense. And this is really all of us. So are all of these things working? And, how can we take all of this cool stuff that we have? Obviously, we're all interested in being more well, but it's in some way, it's kind of like you said, we're at this amazing crossroad of more people are talking about mental well-being, and we're all interested in it, but we all know the things to do, but are we involved in that process? So, this book is really, about a checklist of helping people slow down, first of all, and to see what's going on, which is a huge principle of all the things we've been talking about, whether it's Tai Chi or, Kung Fu. You gotta slow down. And then all of a sudden, you get the space-time situation happening. So slowing down so you can navigate yourself, and, then learning all of the things from there, because we could go and learn about all of these cool things and still not understand them if we're not part of the process. So it's really an attempt to say, okay, let's do some yoga, let's do some Tai Chi, but let's do some Tai Chi while you're picking up the groceries. Are you picking them up by saying, oh, I got to get to the groceries, and then so I can do my yoga class, or I can go do my Tai Chi situation?
I got to rush and stress so I can go do the good thing for
right.
myself.
Or can you bring the bag of groceries into your body, like you learn in some functional movement class, and then come up to stand and then put them out one by one and see what you've bought. And you don't have to become a strange person, but you're just moving better with yourself. And, if people can make these little changes, then kind of everything changes, which is, so simple, but so exciting, I think.
Yes, well, and it's huge. And again, like you mentioned, we're starting to see just, I think, the beginning of this shift of, mindset and mental health and wellness and things. And, you can scroll Instagram, and if you're lucky and you're following the quote unquote right people, you might see some of these encouraging things. But that's really just the tiny baby step, because what do we do then, right? When someone says, slow down to speed up, or take your time, or be mindful, you're like, you're right, I should do that. And then what?
Yeah.
And then how does it manifest itself in our everyday life? And like you said, like it's about taking it off the mat and into life. And again, how do we do that? And I know for myself, coming from the temple, there was, meditation and Tai Chi, and you have these moments where you go and it's in a way easy to do, because that's all you're doing. That the rest of the world is away, and you just do that. Even when we meditate, we're going to, even if it's in our room, we're going to a space, we're setting that time, and we're meditating. But to have that experience and have that moment in the midst of chaos, in the midst of doing the dishes, that's where we're actually using it.
Mhm.
You know, when we're in that quiet space, it literally is practice, right? When we're practicing for, I used to play basketball as a, on a team in high school. When you practice, you have this ideal situation, you kind of know your plays, your teammates, you're practicing. But it's when you're on the court, when there's an opposing team, when there's people you don't know and you don't know what's going to happen or how they play,
Mm.
that's when we actually put the efforts into practice. I mean, that's actually when we need to use it, right?
Oh yeah, so cool. And to kind of just go off that, if you're doing it in your practice and you're when you're practicing, you're not distracted and you're actually just allowing yourself to feel your own self and work on your things, then when there's other people, it becomes exciting and maybe not as stressful because you were fully there when you were practicing, just like your teacher at the temple was tossing you over, and then you learned how to become a noodle, and then you come back into your career and you're like, I am the noodle, and then you do all these things which is so cool. I think the best thing we can do is figure out how to become noodles during the day. If it's in the middle of the Zoom break, take a moment to get on the ground and not do yoga because you saw someone do it on Instagram, but maybe, okay, I saw somebody do that, but how can I do that where I'm not going to throw out my knee? What's going to feel good for me?
Yeah.
And that's actually the inspirational thing, you figuring it out for yourself. That's why we're drawn into these people, unless there's some weird trick going on where, you're advertised, like, why am I looking at this person right now? But somebody that's really inspiring you in your life, they're moving well, they're doing something well, they figured out how to center their chi, and that's drawing us in because we want the same thing, not because we need to idolize that person, but your kung fu master showed you how to do it yourself. And that's the coolest thing. I think we can all kind of remind each other to get on the ground and soften and roll around and make sure it feels like us, and be kind of strong in that. And we've been taught all our lives not to feel like us, through the messaging literally on the billboards from all of the brands, no pain, no gain. It's
Literally,
like,
yes.
Stop with that.
It is not easy, we tell you. Yes. Well, and so to bring that back, so the book is Clean Mind, Clean Body, and it is taking us where we are, which we know is plugged in, stressed out, stuck in our desks, just all the things, all the access, all the information, all the go. And it's not demonizing that, but it's actually, now, is it right? It's like a 30-day kind of reset, like button type of process, right?
Yeah, there's something to do. So it takes you through your mindset, your physical way of being, spiritual, kind of looking at yourself in a reflection way, like, is this where I want to go? and then the final one, and people, a lot of people that know me think this is like a big surprise. The final one is how you move. But it's sort of like you can't get to the movement stuff until you go to the temple, even if the temple is in your living room. Okay, I can slow down, I can get my mind right. And if my mind is right, then I can start to access my values a little bit more, think about my goals and the why I'm doing this. And then, okay, then we can start to get in the kitchen, and then we can start to move our bodies a little bit, and we'll have that sort of, base to keep us sane and not, fall prey to all of the tricks out there and the tricks inside too.
Yes, right. Because it's not always out there, guys. There's a lot of what we've done knowingly or unknowingly to ourselves. So there's so much to undo. And I love that because, again, a big part of this show is, what are the action steps? What can I do? We can take all the theory and philosophy, but knowledge, it's not until we put action to the knowledge where it becomes wisdom. And then we can walk in wisdom. And so when we can do that, when we can actually take the steps, that's when we go, oh, this is something I own. This is something that's part of me. Wisdom is part of me. Knowledge is something we can access, but it hasn't become ours until we experience it. And so this book allows that process. It kind of lays it out, shows you what to do, and gets us moving towards action so we can own this idea that we all love and most of us agree with. This is a great thing, but now we can actually really live it. So I'm so excited about that. And before my last question, can you please tell everyone where they can find you, if you have anything going on, or just how they can connect and get your book and all this great stuff?
Sure. Yeah. So tarastiles.com is just me with, links everywhere that'll take you things and some, stuff to help you hopefully feel a little bit better. StrålaYoga.com is all the guides, all the partner studios, everything going on with that. Everything kind of links to each other. We try to, simplify as much as possible. And if you want to practice yoga with us, we have our Stråla Yoga app now. You can get that in all the places. And we have live classes pretty much every day. I personally love to be with people and do that. So you can click live and be there, and there's a little chat box. And or you can just do yoga whenever you want, obviously. But that's just for me, honestly. I love, being with people consistently, having that global studio vibe. So, we were, lucky to have that kind of feature where we could do that in the app as well, not just have the videos. And yeah, people
awesome.
can, find me in all the usual places.
Amazing. And the book as well, available everywhere books are sold?
Yeah, everywhere books are sold. So yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that is amazing. For the last question, out of all this amazing things that we talked about, powers and tools and steps we can take, someone who has heard all the inspiration, done all the things, is like, okay, Tara, okay, I'm gonna do something. Where should we start? What was the one thing we can do this week to start walking into this direction of ease?
Oh gosh, well, I think there is, a little bit of a formula to the softness and to the ease. And, softness is really make your body bendable. So, you have a little bit of movability in your joints. So you're okay, you're softened. And then there's this emotional, okay, I can soften a little bit. And then from there, your breath you don't have to take big, deep breaths. Your breath just starts to become what it's meant to be, bigger and deeper and fuller. And from there, my goodness, you have the choice. I feel something, I can notice it, I can go along with it, I can respond to how I feel now. So I think taking these little softness breaks and, just get down on the ground, get somewhere comfortable. You can also stand, your body's not going to fall apart if you soften, just become a little bendable, a little bit of a wiggle from your center, from your hara, from your, all of this is really the same stuff. Allow your breath to move you and then go from there. I think the best principle in all of this stuff is Wu Wei, which is this, do the thing that you're doing and only use the energy that you need to have to do it. No more, no less, nothing. And that's, for me, that should replace no pain, no gain everywhere. It's be efficient. We all want the world to be a more environmentally eco-efficient place, but we're not living that way ourselves. So, we can Wu Wei our way, and maybe we can come up with a, more catchy word for that, but just, do what you got to do, no more, no less, and move on. And then
I think I like Wu Wei your way. Wu Wei your way.
Maybe that's good. It's always a laboratory for me. I'm always constantly, refining and working this stuff out. So yeah,
that's part
maybe
of
I'll
the
buy some billboard space just to have a little bit of a guerrilla campaign. We can bring it back.
Yes. Well, so what I'm hearing, guys, is this week, find a moment for a softness break. Find a softness break. So that can be, sounds like 30 seconds to as long as you have. And it can be as simple as wiggling the body, calming that noodle. And like you said, it's not even that you have to make an effort to make a deep breath. At that point, just taking the breath, things start to soften. You've
opened the door and the breath is like, thank you. I've been waiting outside. Where have you been? It's cold and raining.
So taking a softness break to check in, to feel it out, and then Wu Weiing your way through, which is meaning just use the amount of energy you need. And I think that's so important because most times than not, we don't realize when we're tense, when we're holding. I used to have a sign in front of my desk that said, take one intentional breath. And I would be working and doing things and I'd see it and go, oh yeah, like breathe on purpose. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, I felt really good. And I am breathing all the time, which is pretty important, but that's something about taking a moment to purposely and intentionally do that. And I'm assuming the same way to intentionally just be like, I'm going to kind of noodle myself out for a minute. And it's powerful. So I'm going to bring that in, all that you said, to say, guys, take a softness break sometime this week and see how that feels to get started.
Love it.
I'm good.
Let me know how it goes. We'll check back in.
Yeah, exactly. Tell us below if you need any more details or tell us how your softness break went. But thank you so much for being here, Tara. I mean, it was really I could talk to you so long today. I could keep going, but I appreciate you being here, sharing your information, sharing your story, this time with us. And is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up?
Oh gosh, I think just, well, thank you. I mean, I feel like I made a new friend now and I could just chat with you for forever and come visit you and do all of the things, but we should totally do that as well. As soon as we can see
people in person, this is happening.
Yeah, that'll be great. But yeah, I think just, for folks going after what actually makes you feel good. And it sounds so simple, but taking these breaks and noticing how you feel so you can move from there.
Yes, I love it. Well, you guys, make sure to get in touch with Tara at Tara Stiles on Instagram, her website, tarastiles.com, and of course, Stråla Yoga. And as always, you can connect with us at Tanyamfk on Facebook and Instagram and learn more about our courses, workshops, groups, and coaching to grow your business and create a life you love at Tanyamfk.com. And if you like this episode, then make sure to subscribe and follow and be notified when our next one is up by clicking that button now. And remember, there's no such thing as someday, because it starts today. Make it the best. I'm Tanyamfk, and see you next time. Thanks for joining us. My Design Live is a Tanyamfk production. You can catch us every week at 1 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. London on the Tanyamfk YouTube channel. Do you have a method, tip, or hack you'd like to share or explore? Suggest a topic or submit to be a guest by visiting our website at Tanyamfk.com.